Thank you. Now we're going to turn to a friend of the show, a friend of DEF CON, and Consul General of Israel, Ido Aharoni, who joins us today, and a man who's got a background in diplomacy and a background in technology. I've got to tell you, I was watching the President's State of the Union address last night, and I was struck not by the reference to Israel. I mean, most presidents do refer to Israel in State of the Union addresses or in major foreign policy addresses, but the vehemence with which he said, we stand with Israel, we want to protect Israel's security, we're going to guarantee it. Did you notice a difference, and what do you account for that?
Well, obviously, the president was expressing the popular American sentiment, and it is luckily also the popular sentiment in Israel. It's a friendship that goes beyond interests. I think in the first place it's about shared values. Mm-hmm. And both our nations, we stand for the same values. We both support freedom, democracy, and the advancement of knowledge, basic rights, human rights, the freedom of speech and so on. So I thought it was, the phrase that he used, ironclad, mm-hmm. not for the first time, is 100% accurate. That's how we feel as well. Take
that one to the bank. Let me ask you, when you talk about things like democracy and shared values, as you look around the Middle East today, a year ago when the Middle East, and it's really exactly a year ago when the Middle East, Arab countries in the Middle East started their revolutions in the Arab awakening, I think a lot of people were very optimistic that what we would see was the development of democracy in these regions, that it would be secular governments that would ultimately make their peace with Israel, ultimately turn towards developing their own economies as opposed to fighting their neighbors. What's the view from Israel? Has that happened, or can it happen?
We have to make a distinction between democracy as a value system, as a belief system, and the democratic process. The thought that it's all about the ability to implement the process, we believe, doesn't really cover.
You mean an election does not a democracy make?
Exactly. What we learned in the last 15 months, really, is that democracy is not just about the ability to implement a political process, transparent elections. Mm-hmm. Look at what happened to us in Gaza.
Yeah.
Democratic elections were flawlessly executed, but Hamas, a terrorist organization, emerged victorious. In other words, in the name of the democratic process, we allowed a terrorist organization to exploit the democratic system, and now they run Gaza, they govern Gaza in a non-democratic fashion. Try to be an openly gay individual in Gaza today. Try to be an opinionated journalist in Gaza today. This is not going to happen. So we're making a distinction between the process and the necessary infrastructure needed for people to fully absorb and understand what democracy is all about. We believe that democracy is about values and about people's understanding of those values, and more importantly, about people's ability to live by them. And when you have 30% illiteracy like you have in Egypt, it's very difficult to talk to people about democracy when they don't have the tools to compete in the world, when they don't do math, they don't do English, and things of that nature. So it's a much wider discussion, we believe, about infrastructure. We would love to see more democracy surrounding us, because we think a more democratic Middle East, by definition, is a safer Middle East for Israel. Let us remember that throughout the 20th century, no democracy was ever defeated by tyranny, and no democracy ever waged war against another democracy. So the democratic system is a far safer system for Israel. But at the same time, we have to keep an eye and make sure that the Gaza story doesn't repeat itself.